to Work Behind the Data podcast. My name's Jez Clark. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Eden Smith Group, the data analytics staffing and consulting business. And this year I'm running a series of podcasts where I'll be speaking with data leaders to talk about their approach to building sustainable data teams. There will be a little bit more information that comes off the back of our discussion. And today I'm really super excited and very happy that we will be joined by Abel Aboh, currently the data management lead of the Bank of England. We've known each other some time, Abel. I always enjoy your company and I love listening to you,
Same
to some of your podcasts. And welcome to the show. So how are you doing?
I'm good, Jess. Really, thank you so much for having me. Such a delight. I'm so glad we finally had the time to do this. So thank you for having me. And for every listener as well, really good to have you as well. Thank you for listening as well.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's great. I'm really, really pleased you're here. So I'm going to crack on with some questions now for you, Abel. I hope you enjoy them. But I think some of the listeners would really like to understand, if we could just start at the beginning, how did you get into the data industry and what did your study and career path look like?
Now, can I just say, Jess, that's a great question. I get asked this question a lot. The reason I'm just going to, obviously, by the end of this podcast, people would know why. I got into the data industry when I was working for one of the biggest defense contractor, and it's one of the FTSE 100 organization in the UK. It's called BAE Systems. And they were running a transformation program and to embed data management as a capability into the business. And so, yeah, that was me getting into data. And so ever since then, I've not really looked back as well.
BAE Systems, big company, quite complex organization as well.
Very complex. And it's
Bit
quite
slow
global
moving.
as well. Global as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, an international player. Yeah, quite complex as a business, I would have thought, and also quite slow moving internally, I would have thought, but maybe not, I don't know.
Well, I can't say that for now, but I can't say anything about that. But I think, but it's quite a really great organization, really great organization. I think it's one of the pride and joy as well. And I think it's one of the jewel in the UK as well. It's one of the jewel in the UK. They're doing amazing things globally. But I think it's one of the jewel, not just in the defense sector, but in other sectors as well, technology as well, and every other thing in between. So yeah, it's a
Yeah,
great company. It's a great
yeah.
company.
Yeah, they've got some applied intelligence business now as well, haven't they? Where they're doing some really interesting sort of stuff, tech lead stuff. And so thank you for that. But can you remember, was there a specific moment in your career path that got to where you are now, like a springboarding type moment?
Yes, I think, yeah, it is. But I think it's very important. I always try to do this when I can. Someone really took the chance on me. I remember. So her name is Sarah Jamis once. And if you ever listen to this, Sarah, I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate you just taking this chance on me. I joined BAE Systems. And like I said earlier, back in Portsmouth as well. And Sarah saw this young man came through talking in an interview, and she said, "Well, I want to recruit him. I want him to join my team." So I joined in HR, and ever since then, so Sarah was the information manager then. And we're just looking at HR system as well, but that was a recognition that data played a key role, not just on, not just the technology we're looking after, but the data as well. So
Mm,
ever since then, there was this excitement about data. And I've been lucky as well to report to HR directors, helping them with their data and the rest of them. So for me, I really did understood the role data can play. And so
mm.
whilst I was in BAE system, another person took a chance on me. His name is Tony Wallace as well. Tony, if you ever listen to this, thank you ever so much. And he just brought me into the transformation program. So what they were doing, they were looking for someone that has people relationship, but also someone that understood the business, but also have this appetite and enthusiasm for data. And I was one of them in the organization. So they brought me in there and it was amazing. So it was amazing. And the journey has been really, really great journey for me. So I always tell people that's what really got me into, the career. It's not really I set out to be a data management leader or data management person, but I just saw the new frontier in the organization and the different things data can do. And
Mm,
obviously from decision making to having business intelligence as well, and just running the organization successfully as well.
yeah.
Let's not underestimate the power of data. And ever since then, I've been in data space.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Do you know, one of the things I really like what you've just said actually is that, someone spotted you in the organization and then decided to give you an opportunity. And I think for the listeners, certainly the younger generation who are maybe looking to get into this industry, that to be visible and to have good relationship building skills and to have a general passion is what is attractive to a lot of people in a situation where they're building teams, perhaps, and that might be why you were picked up.
I totally agree with you. I totally 100% agree with you, Jess.
No, that's fantastic. So I think they'll be interested to hear that. But equally on the flip side, has there been any blockers, like obstacles, which have, sort of held you back or been a bit more of a challenge?
Yes, I think for me, in terms of obstacles, there is obviously. I'll just say that, with data, when joining data, even as part of the transformation, it's not one of those places that you definitely get, a full investment as well. So they certainly
Right.
give you some seed money to run, and then you see how you can carry on with the money and how far the money can go. So investment has always been an obstacle because you're not fully resourced, right? But also skills, but it's not an overnight thing. You've got to build skills. You come in with your skills, as a
Yeah.
foundational, you then have to build skills using the new technology and the likes of them as well. And I think for me, though, leadership, when I mean leadership, I'm talking about leadership in what I call the boardroom level. So
Mhm.
having someone that can have your voice in that level to say, hey guys, can you give this guy some time as well to carry on? You definitely see results as well, because some of these things are not overnight, especially when you're trying to find your way on how to tackle things. And sometimes, like I said, business are quite complex as well, especially if you're working in an organization that's really complex as well, not just people, but other
Mm.
things as well. They're building complex products as well. You need
Yeah.
time to do that. And sometimes time is not there.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say, well, I need you to do this in 6 weeks,
Yeah.
and you know that practically you can't deliver it in 6 weeks. So you might go for an MVP, but that's not enough as well.
Yeah.
And I think finally for me, the jargon, it took me a lot to get around the jargon. It never goes away. It's still really, it's
It
one of
still
those, my
bothers me.
bugbear at the moment. The jargon is just messy at the moment. At that point in time, we're talking about warehousing and all the rest of them. Right now, we're talking about mesh and all that stuff as well. It never goes away, right?
No.
But it's quite interesting you said that, because I kind of like, I thought about this a couple of days ago, and I went to chat GPT and I said, okay, what do you think are the challenges, obstacles in data? Guess what? Chat GPT says to me, lack of relevant skills, limited opportunity for growth, narrow job roles, lack of diversity and inclusiveness, and rapid changing technology. So those are the things
Wow.
Chat GPT say to me. So I totally agree. Hey,
So
I
do
totally
I.
agree. Yes, I
Yeah.
do. I do.
That's incredible, because if you asked me for 5 points, they're probably the points I would have given you as well. That's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's here to stay, mate. It's here to
Yeah.
stay.
So, so what I'm hearing then really is about time obviously is an issue, budget is an issue, and I guess the impact of that is actually having to justify your existence to carry on the journey that you're on. And I've heard that from many other data leaders as well. So it does resonate, and I think it's something that people need to be aware of when they get into a position like yours, or even at a more foundational level. That they've got to understand that they've got to get that on their side. It's very interesting. Have you ever been given any specific career advice from anybody that you remember that's helped you?
Yes, I have. I mean, from say, Abel, listen, stay authentic and stay focused. I worked in an industry. I remember, I was pretty much in the heart of Glasgow, in the south of what we call the South Street of Glasgow. Massive industrial area of Glasgow as well. And you're working with locals there. And someone said to me, Abel, stay authentic and stay focused.
Yeah,
Don't try to be anyone else.
yeah,
So if I stand out, I'm in the room, I pretty much stand out as well,
yeah,
for different reasons. But that was it. So that really helped me. But also someone said to me, Abel, just starting on data management in terms of my career part in data management, he said, Abel, don't focus on the technology, focus on the foundation, on the key component on how to deliver this. If you can do that, technology will change, but the focus around the foundational piece will never change as well. And ever since then, I stopped chasing technology. I don't even look at them necessarily, but I understand what you can do to deliver data management.
yeah,
And that's quite important as well. And I've invested my time to try to unlock that, and it does work. So that's
yeah.
my advice someone gave to me, and I'll live up with it.
I think that's fantastic advice. And I think, hopefully the listeners will take that on board, because even since we've been in business for 7 years now, all I've seen is rapid change of technology, but actually fundamentally the business problem has been the same and needs to be approached in
Yeah.
particularly the same way. And of course, it leads me on to the part of the main topic, which is sitting behind this series of podcasts. And for someone like yourself who's got, you've got a very, very solid background there from a number of different types of businesses as well, especially from going from BAE into banking, etc. I noticed you worked for EasyJet as well, airline industry. When building teams, the feedback that I've had so far from lots of different data leaders is that their approach tends to be quite different. I haven't quite found a single fundamental there, but I'm very interested to hear what your approach is when you want to actually put a team of people together to deliver something.
That's a great question, Jess. I mean, I'm a sucker for ancient. I'm a sucker for ancient, reading ancient books. Whether simply I'm talking about, the Greeks and how other guys over there kind of dealt with problems. For me, I found this approach that really worked when I'm trying to build a team. I call them ethos, pathos, locus. Obviously, the names are there, they're Latin words as well. But ethos means about technical, creativity, business acumen as well. So if I want to build a team, especially a data team, I'm going to look for people that have business capability and technical capabilities as well, right? Yeah. That's no negotiation about that. But the pathos for me is quite important, because this has to do with great emotional intelligence. Okay. Right. So fundamentally, I look for people that can get along with people, that can read the room quickly, that understand stakeholders, that got great emotional intelligence and connections as well. Because fun is really, really important, because ultimately you're dealing with people before you're dealing with the data, right? You're dealing with people. And if you can't really get along with people and understand people and engage with them, it's really, really important, right? And I think the final part for me, which is about the locus, is around you have to have a great problem solving capability as well, right? Okay. You've got to look at things and take a step back and try to say, okay, how can I simplify this, right? So simplification is one thing, but also how can I present it to the audience in a way that makes sense, right? So for me, those things are fundamental. Those are they're not optional at all. They're quite mandatory. But I think I found that over the years as well, to be a change agent, not change management, but being able to be a catalyst for change is important. So when people come around you, they just necessarily not just going to sit down and carry on with the status quo, right? Yep. They come around you, they're thinking about how can I be better in what I'm doing? How can I improve the process? How can I improve this? How can I improve that? And I think it's really important. Leadership is great, though, not on the job title level, but being I wouldn't necessarily a natural leader, because there's nothing like that, but being people that can invest and they've honed their leadership skills as well. They know what it is and they embrace it as well. But collaborators, you have to collaborate. You have to know how to collaborate, because for me, you can't deliver data management in isolation. You deliver it as a team, right? So one of the key ingredients is that you've got to collaborate better. And if you can do that, it's really, really important. And then I think for me, finally, the act about storytelling, the act of communication is so fundamental. I cannot stress that enough. So when I'm thinking about putting my team together, I talk about the business technical, I talk about the emotional intelligence, I talk about the problem solving, but all the things I've just mentioned as well is really, really important. And storytelling is one of the things that can help you unlock several things as well. So yeah, that's what I do. And I would encourage everyone to try it and explore it, and I hope that it works for you, because it does work actually.
Yeah, some great points there, Abel. I mean, storytelling is now a recognized skill, which is very interesting in itself anyway. It's actually there. It's a skill that is a requirement on most job specifications. I guess one of my questions around that, when you're talking about technical skills, business skills, you've got, emotional intelligence, you've got problem solving skills, which you're looking for. Now, do you look for those skills and competencies in every individual, or when you're building a team, do you say that I want some people like that, some people like that, and some people like that? So from a more holistic view.
Absolutely, a more holistic view. And then the key word is you have to be a diverse and an inclusive team.
Of
So you
course.
don't just have one champion, you have champions, right? You don't just have one champion, you have champions. And
Yeah.
I think when you think about team, for me, fundamentally, data management is a team sport. So, and because it's a team sport, people play their various positions and they lean on one another to support one another. So if you have someone that's quite good in technical, you've got someone that is good in terms of delivering the business and stakeholder engagement. It is required for that person to also support the other technical people and give them that skills and that repertoire of skills as well to help them do what they need to do. So as we go as a team, we grow as a team,
Yeah.
and I think a team for me is not just a team of one champion. A data team that is successful will be a team of multiple champions as well. And I
Yeah.
think that's where the key is. And if you can do that, you know, it's so important. And remember, when we talk about the data team, we've got different what I call discipline within the data team. Some people are doing governance, some people are doing quality, some people are doing metadata management, some people are doing, architecture, some people are doing
Yeah.
the BI piece as well. Some people are doing the administration piece in terms of the database and the like of them. Some people are doing engineering,
Mm.
so they've got their different focus as well. But you've got to ensure that these things I've just talked about exist in your team.
Yeah, yeah. No, so I totally get it, and I totally agree with it as well. Obviously, there are challenges that, when you're trying to find people like that. So, perhaps someone in engineering, in the engineering community, there might be less of those that are very good at storytelling because they're highly technical, perhaps.
Yep.
We get people in the BI space that may be better at storytelling because it's a big part of their job, when building dashboards and things like that as well. Um, so some really, really good points there, Abel. Now, I often talk about talent strategy. And some of the things that I talk about is do not default to recruitment. And the reason that I talk about that is because if you have a talent shortage, then actually what we should be doing in first place is looking at what, the people that we have and internal mobility, succession planning, training, retraining, removing, and that sort of stuff before we go, okay, we're going to need to hire X amount of people.
Yep.
What do you think is the most important component within an overall talent strategy?
I think that's a great question for me, Jess. Let me try and answer that question, to say that for any person that's listening to me, if you have a data strategy and it doesn't align with the talent strategy, you better rethink it all, because your data strategy needs to
Good
have a
point.
component of talent strategy as part of that, right? And
Very good point.
resourcing is fundamental, because data management, you cannot deliver data management just by technology. You have to deliver it through people. There's
Yeah,
no other way. If you have another way, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd like to see that other way as well.
I'll
But
take your
more
lead.
importantly, you know, overall, if you have a good data management strategy and talent management is deep into that, right? What you would get is you will clearly define for me, what would be your engagement like, right? Because when you think about, for me, as a component of a talent strategy, okay, if you're going to bring this person, you've recruited the person, how are you going to engage the person,
Hmm.
right? Okay, what would good look like? We just talked earlier, a few minutes ago, just talk about the need to have a diverse team based on the different capabilities as well, right?
Yeah,
So you've got to do that, okay? Now, recruitment is a great thing, but where do you go for recruitment, right? Are you just talking about putting things on job boards and then expect things to come up? No, there are other bespoke, like people like yours as well out there that people can tap from and say, I want this, I'm looking for this particular niche or not niche, or so this is what I'm trying to achieve. Can you advise me as well? So people like you might not
yeah,
deliver the person, but you can deliver the advice and the
yeah,
support to get to that pipeline as well. Because I always say to people, if you're going to do traditional pipeline at the moment from a data space, you would never resource your team adequately. You've got to do the unconventional pipelines,
hmm,
and I hope that people understand what that means. I'm not saying you're not circumventing, no, but having the right talent through the door can be quite difficult. So you've got to
absolutely.
look for other ways to attract and select people and bring them to the pipeline. And sometimes you can as well go and headhunt them as well
Yeah.
and
Of
show
course.
them what your value proposition is and why they should come and work for you and the team and deliver what you need to deliver as well.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and you've talked about collaboration a few points ago and the importance of that. And we advise customers ourselves about the importance of joining up with networking groups and other channels to actually try and attract talent, and the things that you should be talking about as a business and increasing your employer brand in the market to make sure that you look like an attractive proposition to people that could be moving or not moving. So I totally agree with everything that you've said there. What does onboarding look like at the Bank of England? Is there a good process?
No, I mean, onboarding for me, I would say that for me, when I joined the bank, I'm a COVID recruit. You know what that means is that I joined the bank in the middle of the pandemic, which is quite a unusual thing. But also, I over the years now, I've come to appreciate and say, wow, this is amazing. Why? Because for me, as an experienced hire, my line manager, gave me all the support that was needed, right? And obviously with the body as well, I was given to, and also the wider team as well. So it really worked for me. But can I just say this with onboarding? I think it's really important. If you have to create an onboarding process, strategy, or whatever, it has to fit for purpose. It needs to have that fit for purpose because the person that you're recruiting sometimes have different needs, right? For me, I've been in the space. I know what is expected. I'm coming as an experienced hire. Some other person might not be in my situation as well, but it has to be the right fit for purpose because there's no point just having things to say week 1 this, week 2 this, week 3 this, week 4 this, right? That doesn't really bring any value at all. Okay, so for me, I always say it's important for your onboarding to be fit for purpose and more importantly to be appropriate as well. So me joining in the middle of the pandemic, I believe that my onboarding was appropriate. Why? Because I did everything virtually. I didn't have to come into trade industry, right? Because we're not allowed to do that. But there was really good support. There were really good information from a team perspective to the bank perspective as well. Now, that is me. I cannot certainly say, it might be the same for everybody. But from what I've seen in the bank, I think their onboarding is really, really structured and not just structured as well, but I think it's quite seamless as well to a greater extent because they've got a huge population of different, people joining the organization, from early careers to experienced hires as well. They've got that big population as well.
Yeah. So fit for purpose, got to be appropriate. It's got to be
absolutely
got to be engaging, hasn't it? Let's be
yes.
honest. It's got to be friendly.
Yes.
People need lots of different touch points. I think through onboarding, especially if you're onboarded through the pandemic. I mean, that was a big shock for lots of people, really. To just
and the line managers need to play a key role in that as well. Line management needs to play a key role, so they need to wake up to their responsibility. They need to know what is expected of them, and they deliver that. Because without that, why are you bringing someone? Why are you attracting someone and you're not ready?
Yeah, fantastic advice, Abel. Really is.
Yeah.
And of course, once you've got lots of people into your team, now we're looking at how do we keep people motivated? How do we keep retention in a good place? Because you don't want to be losing people that it's been so hard to find, right? So we hear this a lot, right? It costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time, and then you invest in people to help with their skills, and then of course they walk out the door. How do you go about motivating and retaining your team?
I mean, for me, that's so important. And Jess, can I say that's a great question? Because in my organization, and not just my organization, but across my sector, sometimes people have to take like 6 months just to get through the door. Right? I'm not talking about interviews and all the rest of them, just because of the other pre-employment check that needs to happen, right? And you don't want to lose the person just even 6 months or 1 year down the line. You're going back to the drawing board. It's not good as well. It's not good for team morale. It's not good for you delivering stuff as well, right? Not at all. Now, for me, it's important. For me, employee motivation is important, and retaining good talent for me is really, really important. What I say to that is, first and foremost, you've got to have empathy. You see, I can't stress that enough. If you don't have empathy, the ability to put yourself in people's shoes, and you want them to come work with you and for you, then you've just missed the boat already. You're on the wrong boat. Don't try it. But more importantly, how can you build and create a high trust environment or a high trust culture? And sometimes people take this for granted. The basis of working together, fundamentally, the heart of it is trust for one another. So you've got to understand what you need to do to build a high trust environment, not a low trust environment. It's really important. Psychological safety is no brainer at all. People should be themselves. They should be able to, be allowed to fail, learn from that, get up and do stuff. Having clear values and clear behaviors, it's not optional. You've got to establish those things as well, because you're talking about bringing people from different backgrounds as well, right? You've got to have those things. Work-life balance is no brainer. You've got to have it. People should be able to separate between work and non-work as well, and have that balance in their life as well, because life is not all about work. And I think another thing people need to consider, and I think about this quite important, is just being transparent about your reward and recognition process. Sometimes, when you talk about pay, it's like, oh, it's a taboo not to talk about it. No, you've got to be transparent. People need to know why A is earning this, B is earning this, and if there's variances, why that is the case as well. Especially when you're dealing with experienced hires, especially even with earlier careers as well. They need to know that, because what that does is that creates what we call a trust environment. And finally, I'm not just going to talk about the roles and expectation. That hopefully that's a given. But finally, it's important for an employer, okay, to create and understand the value proposition.
Yeah, agreed.
What is the value proposition? You need to articulate it clearly for people to understand. And if you don't, then have a rethink about it, because if you don't have a clear value proposition, then as far as I'm concerned, right, you're not ready. So these things I've just mentioned, right, they are so important. And I hope that if you do that, motivation is going to go up the roof. You're going to retain people, and people will want to work for you and work with you and stay there for quite a long time.
Some really good messages there, Abel. I like everything that you're saying, and I totally agree with the employee value proposition, because people need to understand what their role will be doing and how it'll be contributing to the team, and how the team contributes to the bigger picture, and then how they're going to be looked after through that. And I think what else I'm hearing from you is transparency. I think it's very important as well. So we all know what's going on. We all know how our career path can progress, and therefore we should be in a position then where we're supporting each other. If you've got flexibility in working, you're going to feel more highly motivated, and of course, you're very less likely to move.
There's a point there. There's a point there I just want to quickly make for my listeners as well. You see, it's not acceptable for male to be any more than women.
Absolutely not.
It's not acceptable, right?
No, I agree.
And some of these practices have gone over time, and I think it's important. And one of the reasons for that is because of lack of transparency.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you think about those things, some of those things have, for me, they have social implication in how we see society, right? And how society is driven and what we need to get at. Because when you think about productivity in society and an economy as a whole, you need everyone to be firing all cylinders. Yeah. Right. And if one part of the society is not firing cylinders because they feel that they're neglected, they feel that they're not celebrated, they feel that they're not recognized, they feel that they're not rewarded adequately, that's to the detriment of the country as a whole. Yeah. And to society, and so we don't need to allow that to happen. And that's just one point I just want to bring up. And so when I talk about transparency, about pay and recognition, it's quite deeper. There's things about ethnicity, pay gap, and the rest of them. We're trying to unpick some of these big things, but it's all come back to that transparency and trust, which is fundamental.
Well, we're coming on to that next topic, really, aren't we? And subject matter around diversity, right? The D&I is on everyone's radar right now. We're all trying to do something about that. There's various different challenges, that face us all. It sounds to me like this is paramount to you. Having a diverse team is a top priority to Abel.
I said that to you, Jess. Especially in the data space, right? Yeah. You have to have a diverse team.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I agree.
If you want to deliver data management and your team is not diverse, I'll tell you, take a pause and think about it. And sometimes consider why that's not the case as well. And what is your challenges? Is it something that has to do with the culture of the organization? Or is it something that has to do with your position within the organization as well? But I think for me, diversity even transcends more than that. So when I think about leadership, your leadership needs to be inclusive,
Yeah.
right? How could one person just decide the whole agenda? You're not getting stuff. People are not contributing to shape what that looks like.
Mm.
Your team needs to be inclusive. I talk about psychological safety and standing. It's not just safety as well. People being able to be part of something. I talk about authenticity and belonging. These are not words. These are real. You need your people to be authentic,
Yeah.
right? If you speak to Abel, you've spoken to Abel, and you cannot say, "Oh, I spoke to James." No, Abel is Abel. Do you understand me? Because Abel is being authentic, James is being authentic. Paula is being authentic as well. And these things matters as well. Why? Because we're dealing with people on a relational level.
Yeah.
Right? There should be, for me, acceptance and tolerance. We have to do that. People need to be accepted fully. And also in terms of tolerance as well, people need to be allowed, to bring themselves. And finally, I just mentioned the point around equity.
Mhm.
Equity is a big thing. I'll just give you a simple. Why would a male earn much more than a female doing the same job? That's not equitable,
No.
right? Why would the outcome be different? Okay, you've got two analysts in your team, a male and a female, and the female's outcome is different from the male. That's not equitable, right?
No.
It's not. So the reason I'm saying this as a data leader myself, it is my responsibility to vocalize some of these things, and also to say that for those of us and for many that's listening to me as well, we can change that narrative as well. We shouldn't allow that to creep into our space and then we nurture it as well. We've got the ability to change it, and changing it starts from recognition that it's not acceptable and doing something about it as well.
Well, I think as data people, I think you're absolutely right. I agree with everything you've said. But as data people, especially if you're working with the HR data, there's no. I don't really see why there are any blockers anymore. We can get access to HR data. We can be transparent in business, and I think data people will be able to gain some great insight from the people side of things, so people analytics, HR data, etc., to understand what's going on and understand where a business is, and to hopefully make quicker changes than what they probably would have been able to do before. I expect. So very, very good point. Okay, so let's move on to we got the team. We've got onboarding. We're talking about retention, motivation. How about training and development? And what tools have you ever used in the past to, you know, use effectively or regularly to make sure that your team is where it needs to be?
I mean, for me, I prefer, rather than training, I prefer learning. I'll tell you the reason why,
Learning
Jess.
and
For me,
development.
learning for me, for learning is a lifelong thing, right? Learning is a lifelong thing.
Very
I'm
true.
training, I'm not getting to that, but for me, learning and development is quite important, right? But also, I will say this to people, it's beyond what happened internally in your organization. You've got to explore external part of learning as well. So for me, as an example, I'm a board member in one of the colleges, and in that space, I've learned a lot from seasoned professionals,
Hmm.
from chief executives and the likes of them that I might not certainly learn in my team,
Yeah.
right? And I can bring that learning back to my team as well, right? But also I'm exposed to other external part of community as well, where you've got people there and you can learn from them, from their live experiences to other things as well that you can bring back to your organization. And I think for me, it's really important for people to recognize that if you're managing a team, it's so imperative for you to ensure and signal to everybody in the team for them not to deprioritize their learning, and ensure that they prioritize learning as one of the key things up there in their agenda as well. And I will say this to people, why do I go to conferences? Why do I go to people like Big Data London to speak and the rest of them? And not just speaking, but attending as well. It's because I need to learn from others what's going on in the industry,
Hmm.
right? And sometimes people can stay 12 months and they've not done any of those things. They've not been in external forums. They've not even taken the time. to go learn as well. Sometimes I do sacrifice my annual holidays for those things as well, because I do recognize that is a priority amongst every other thing else as well.
How do you so I agree with that. So obviously I have a team of people, and I try and provide as much support and access to external learning. But then of course as a data leader who is overseeing a team, how high on the expectation is how high is your expectation that the people in your team have to also spend time on their personal development, as well as perhaps going out and looking at market information and latest tools and technologies and things like that?
I mean, for me it's as high as the first three things as well, to be honest. And I'll tell you the reason why is because you see, what learning does is that learning challenges you and the way you look at things. Sometimes it validates what you do as well or not, right? And you need those pointers because, like I say, it's a lifelong thing. It's an activity that helps to steer you quickly. And if you're not learning, if it's not in the top three, then the danger is you can do the top three and learning is not there, and you think you're doing something really amazing. And you get to the end of the road and you find that, hang on a second, it hasn't had any value at all. So that's the reason why I would encourage people to put it within the top three, because that really matters as well. Now, the other point about tools as well. So you can do that within team. People can come in and have things like lunch and learn as well.
Yep. Yep.
You're thinking about something, you've heard the new information and you're excited about it. Come and share it with everyone as well.
Yeah.
Right. It's important as well. You've learned something new, come and share it, lunch and learn. You have the ability to do some cross team collaboration as well. And I think that's the benefit of hybrid working as well. You've got this technology and you can do a lot with it. You can bring different people into a room, a virtual room, and you can facilitate great conversation. So, like I said, I think it's really important for people to take it quite serious. And that's the reason why training for me never really caught it, because training is one of those things historically, training budget is always something down the road, right? But no, honestly, it's almost like the issue that CIPD used to have, a personal development, right? And then they changed that around to be Chartered Institute of Personal Development. It has to be human resource rather than personal division or whatever. And when you say human resource, people then start to understand that it has to do with people and not just personnel.
It's a very good point. I mean, my other half is in HR. I hear a lot about this sort of stuff, especially around learning and development and well-being. But actually, one of the things I'd like to point out is that a training budget indicates to me a reactive thing that's going to happen, because it's a business saying we have a training budget. There you go. There's some training. Where actually, when you look at personal development, which I think is more of it's something that you have to go and do. It's more proactive. You've got to put yourself out there to go and do this stuff yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's for free, right? You talk about lunch and learns. You talk about there's loads of webinars and podcasts and God knows what, where people can actually learn a lot and then bring that and share that with the rest of the team. And of course, if everybody does it, then we're upskilling the whole team over the course of a year. Fantastic.
That's correct. And I think that's the reason why I just have that thing about training, T&D rather than, for me, I prefer L&D than T&D basically. Yeah.
No, that's a very, very fair comment. I like it. So thanks for that. Talking about, you mentioned hybrid working. Big topic in the industry at the moment. I'm reading lots of reports. I'm reading lots of percentages from God knows who. Lots of large firms that are doing big surveys around what the community wants, what people want, and what businesses want. What's your personal view around remote versus hybrid working and flexible?
I mean, remote hybrid. I just to add as well, flexible working as well. For me, that's the way forward, right?
I agree.
That's the way forward. After pandemic, basically, we cannot afford not to take that opportunity to almost reevaluate what work is about. The way we've been engaging with work for the last 100 years has pretty much been what has been giving us at the back of the industrialized in the industrial revolution, the beginning of industrial revolution, right?
Yeah.
But right now we're pretty much in a new frontier. That's something that you can't touch, but
Yeah.
it works, and it's called the internet. You can't see it, but they say it's got a router, and then it's got this light blinking, and then you can connect to the world, and you can have conversations, series of conversation, voice, video, you can play games, you can do all sorts as well, right? And I think as a result, it's important for us to think about how do we structure work, and how do we define work, and what do we want out of work as well. And that's the opportunity for us to explore all those things. So for me, it makes a lot of difference. But more importantly, people need to recognize this, and it's fundamental. The psychological contract proposition between employer and employee has changed massively.
Yeah, I agree.
Just after COVID, I mean, you can argue after COVID, it's still there, but the last 2 or 3 years now, the psychological contract proposition has changed. And if you can agree with that, then you've got to change as well. However, in order for you to unlock for me the value about remote working, hybrid working, or flexible working, you've got to think about what are the set of principles or the norms you want to drive in as well. And if you can do that, that would help you unlock things tangible and also intrinsic values as well, right? So for example, I work in the city of London, right? But also there's regional hub as well. Now, I don't need to be in the city of London in trade industry to be effective, right? I don't need to. But also that shouldn't be an obstacle at the same time as well.
No.
Okay, so if you can agree with that, and also with the growth of technology, then we can all change our behaviors, because ultimately technology helps us to change behaviors as well. So there's a rich proposition and there's a rich benefit. I mean, people can fight about this thing, just like everything. People can say it's not working. I totally agree, right? But I will also say to people, have an open mind, listen to your audience, listen to the people, and trust them, and find that middle ground that works, because I believe that fundamentally it does work as well.
Yeah, I do. We've done it ourselves. We had an office in London in the city, and then shortly after lockdown, we didn't have an office, and then we were fully remote. We've remained fully remote. The interesting thing, I think, is it does, your values of your business have to they have to be underpinned, right? So the people working for you, this is where we look about trust and integrity and maturity around how people work. But also we saw an uplift in productivity because we were giving people flexibility. And it's not for everybody, but it works for us. And like bigger organizations might struggle with it, and some have made it work. So yeah, it's interesting. And I think you make some very, very good points there for the listeners. Okay, but I'm going to ask you around challenges, biggest challenges you've faced in the industry, as opposed to challenges around your career path to date. Has there been any real big things?
No, honestly, you don't want to know that, Jess. You don't want to know that. But let me say this. No, let me say this. It's important. There's so much noise making going on right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I think it's for our benefit for us to reduce that noise making, because over the months and the last couple of 18 months, I just see this level of increase each day, the noise making. I talk about the jargon stuff that we laughed about, but that's real, right? It's causing too much noise. You don't get that in finance, you don't get that in engineering, you don't get that in other profession. So why is that happening in ours? Right? It's just a question that we need to ask ourselves. But like I said earlier about empathy, I just believe that there's this lack of empathy or meekness that's going on right now, where we can't really get ourselves to put ourselves in the shoes of others. And we want them to trust us. We want them to invite us into their homes, to help us solve their problem. It doesn't happen. Think about if you go into your GP and your GP doesn't have empathy at all, and just pretty much say, what's going on with you? You go ahead, off you go, get some paracetamol, off you go. You're not going to go back to that GP. It's not about the GP expertise. It's about how the GP treated you when you came through that door. right? And I think empathy matters a lot. So we need to have more of empathy. And I'm calling these biggest challenges. And I'm using this opportunity to speak to all data leaders as well and aspiring data leaders, because in data management, you have to deliver through people. And if you don't start this empathy thing now, you will definitely miss it, and it becomes quite difficult for you to deliver stuff. I think this thing about being complex as well, we should try as much as possible to dial down and make it a lot simpler for people to understand. We're still getting on this bandwagon, making it more complex for people, right? It shouldn't be the case as well. Too many jargon that doesn't make sense as well. But also, I think it's important for us to help, certainly, to start recognizing the real talents here, the real MVPs. I'm not talking about those people with senior titles and lack substance, or no, the substance is not there. We need to start recognizing the real MVPs, people that actually has really labored into the industry, contributed into the industry, and doing some meaningful work as well. And we need to showcase them.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to go down the other things around data quality, talent shortages, and all the rest of them, data literacy, effective leadership and all that as well. I don't want to talk about that, but these are real things that's happening that we can address in the industry. And that's the point I want to make as well. But thanks for asking that question. And I hope that you're not surprised with my answers as well.
I tell you what, I really like your answers, because they're slightly different to ones I've heard before, but they make complete sense. I mean, not one's about jargon. There's definitely too much jargon. I agree with you. I think we do overcomplicate things in the industry for sure. But what I really, really like is just that you're saying, you're highlighting that there's a lack of empathy out there. And that makes perfect sense to me, because I think if we dial that up a little bit, I think we'll find things a lot easier moving forward. So no, it's a really, really good point. I love it. This would be an interesting one for you then. So let's get your crystal ball out here, Abel. So
bring it on, Jess. Okay. Bring it on.
So what's the next biggest trend in our field then? What do you see as the next big trend?
That's a great question. Just to let you know, this year normally most years in the beginning of the year, I just write about what are the 10 trends. But this year in particular, 2023, I did not. And the reason for that was simple, because when I looked at my stuff I wrote 2022, I saw them as a trend going forward for 2023. And that's just simplicity about things, not really reaction stuff, for saying stuff, for saying sake. No. Just keep it simple. But that's a great question. What we do know today, and which is a fact, artificial intelligence is one of them.
Yes.
Right? And no one should be surprised about it. No one should be, right? It's going to create opportunities, going to create obstacles as well. It just depends where you are on the fence, right? But what I would say as well is it's going to give us an opportunity to collaborate as well with what I call the society gatekeepers. And one of them is the media. So for me personally, I just like the fact when I see Peter and Caroline as well doing some media rounds as well, we need to start talking about the people like BBC, Sky TV, and the rest of them should be having data people in those to kind of help educate the general public as well. ONS does send out things on a regular basis as well. So just understanding why we're putting out the statistics and the rest of them and what that means as well. Because at the end of the day, I always say this to people, and I said it just last week, in one of the roundtables I was in. What's the point we're trying to do all this, but it's not making the lives of people better in society? It's a waste of time. If you want to run into an innovation or data or whatever, it should make life easier for people, right? And that's what it's all about. So we should also try and ensure that society is better and life is better as well, right? So, and I think that from a business proposition, I'm seeing a time where I'm thinking, this is just me, no crystal ball at all, that data might be classified as an asset class in organization or in businesses. Because people are seeing the value and they can quantify it, they can monetize it, and what the value proposition it does bring as well. On top of that, sustainability is a great one as well, right?
I'm going to ask you about sustainability.
ESG is not going anywhere at all.
No, not at
it's all. Not going anywhere at all. Bloomberg Intelligence talked about the fact that in 2025 or 2030, I think asset under management is about 50 trillion. Is here to stay. Now, I'm not talking about the data ethics. I'm not talking about the responsible AI. I'm not talking about automation. People should not be surprised about these things as well, right? But just to bring it back home as well, trust in data, data security is important. And finally, data literacy. Those things are also would be a trend, and they're going to be part of the big trend as well. In terms from a society level to an organizational level to a industry level to a cross sector level as well.
Right. Okay. I'm glad you mentioned sustainability, because not many data leaders have it on their radar, but I imagine that you would, because you work for a bank, right? So this is, the ESG agenda is quite a big one, right? I don't know if you know this, but we are heavily pushing into this space now as a group, and it is it's an area that we will be supporting over the coming years. So I'm glad you brought it up.
No, I'll tell people, if you want to follow the money, follow ESG. It's here to stay. That's right.
Well, yeah, it could be the case. It's definitely here to stay. I know that.
Yeah.
Asking you in 3 words, sum up what you think success looks like. 3 words.
For me, in data, basically, is know, trust, and use. Those are the 3 words. Know, trust, and use. Whatever that means to you, explore that.
Know your data, trust your data, and use your data.
That's correct.
And what about you personally? What does success look like?
For me, basically, just help support people to, for me, just move the dial in the right direction.
Yeah.
Just move in the right direction. As much as it's going in the right direction, and I'm contributing, supporting that, and making that happen. That's what success looks like for me personally.
I think that's great. I think if you can be part of moving the dial in the right direction, then I think you've got a win there. And I've got to be honest, I see you doing this everywhere. You have a presence. Thanks. You have a presence when I meet you. There's always you're always involved in a group conversation with people, and you're so open to give advice, which is why one of the reasons I really wanted you on this podcast for the listeners. I think they'll get a lot of information from today so far. Fantastic. What about a bit more about you personally? Just coming up, we're going to be wrapping up now, Abel. So let's tell the listeners one thing that the audience will be surprised to learn about you.
Wow, it's good that you say something personal as well, because I've just been thinking about that. And for me personally, I just want people to know an educated mom produce an uneducated mom produce an educated son. An uneducated mother produced an educated son. And that's my story. My mom was not educated at all.
Right.
And I'm unapologetic about my story. But the beauty about that is the fact that someone is uneducated doesn't necessarily mean that something great cannot come out of that person. Right. Oh, and I think for those people that are listening to me, and that's the story. My mom is uneducated, but she produced an educated son that went to uni, that had his master's, and I think it just contributed in the space as well. So it brings on these things about data as well. A data can do something powerful that you can never imagine, but you have to give the support, the right component, and the other things that's needed to shape that data and get some meaningful insight out of it. So that's just my story.
She sounds like an amazing woman.
Well, she is, bless her.
Fair play. I think it's a very, very good, lovely thing to say, actually. And actually, again, it should be inspirational for many of the listeners out there as well. I have a similar background. My dad really wasn't, highly educated or anything like that. And I don't think today he imagined that I would be doing the job that I'm doing today either. And it's great that you bring that out and you're open to share it. So thanks for that. And finally, for the listeners, definitely for the next generation of data talent, any quick tips that you would give to them, little takeaways that they can focus on?
I'm just going to draw from my experience. Basically, I mentioned initially when someone advised me to focus on the foundational piece as well rather than technology, and I will say that to them as well. Focus on the foundation, the fundamentals of delivering data management successfully. More importantly, gain people skills. We talked about emotional intelligence a bit. gain people's skills and build their emotional intelligence as well. Learn how to deliver through others, where you can influence people indirectly. You can pretty much lead people indirectly as well, even if you don't have the title as well. Learn how to do that. I think finally, just be part of the data conversation. Don't shut up, don't be quiet, contribute, in your space as well. It could be your community, it could be your group, whatever that is. Just be part, contribute to that data conversation. No one in the data space have the answers. Me, myself, I don't have the answers at all. But what I would do, I will share my beat with you, and you can bring your beat as well. And then possibly we can reflect upon it and see and try it as well and see if that works as well. So we're all learning. But I think for me, those are the things I would say to the next generation as well. And to say that the space is really, really exciting. You have a role to play. So come and join. Come on board. You have a role to play. It's not, the door is not shut at all. So for those leaders that really would like to shut the data door, I would say to them, please keep it open. We need more people through the door, and all sorts of people, and diverse people all through the door as well. Male, female, all sorts as well. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, amazing. Brilliant advice there. I've really enjoyed this conversation. There's quite a lot of
Same, yeah.
takeaways here, Abel. This is about relationships and communication skills and transparency and honesty and values and lots of different things there. But I think no matter who is listening to this, there'll be a piece of this podcast that I think will add value to them. They'll take away and they'll learn something that they didn't know before. And that's the whole point of this, right?
Thank you so much, Jess. I mean, great conversation. Really enjoyed talking to you. And to the audience listening, please give me feedback. Tell me how I can improve and connect. And please connect with me on LinkedIn. For me, I always like to collaborate with people, and don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything we can work on to solve problems as well, society problem. Please don't hesitate. But listen, Jess, thank you ever again, and also to the entire team in Eden Smith. Thank you. You guys are doing an incredible job. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to have me in this platform right now and just sharing with the audience. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Bless you. Honestly, no need to thank me, but thank you so much for agreeing to be on here. I'm really, really happy. The conversation's been brilliant as always, and I knew it would be. And I think, as I say, the listeners are going to there's going to be a lot of takeaways there. So thank you so much, Abel. We're going to wrap up now, but I really do appreciate it, and I'll look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.